How We Make Movies is recorded in front of a live audience in Los Angeles and is hosted by WeMakeMovies.org. Hello and welcome back to another episode of How We Make Movies. I'm Amanda Lippert, your host. So tonight we'll be talking with JD Walsh and Elizabeth Triplett. He is the director, executive producer, and writer. She's the co-producer, writer, and actress for Battleground, Hulu's first original scripted series. Battleground is a workplace dramedy that goes behind the scenes with an unruly group of campaign workers and volunteers living on the campaign trail. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. No, that's not our show's about dogs that solve crime.
Yeah. please, audience, welcome our guests, JD Walsh and Elizabeth Triplett.
Yeah, thank you. Nice.
Thank you guys so much
You're
for
welcome.
joining us. Are you guys currently on hiatus?
Yeah, we're currently writing the second season, so we spend a lot of time in a room with note cards staring at us.
Note cards.
Yeah.
So I know you've been really busy, so even though it's hiatus, it's not really been a break for you at all then?
Not really. We haven't really had a break. We came back from shooting and went into the edit room for the first season, and then immediately into writing after that. It was basically just a break for like the Christmas holiday.
Yeah, it's basically a 4-person team, me and Elizabeth, and then our producers, Hagai and Jared. And so, what we figured out is those 4 people can make 13 episodes of a TV show if that's all you do with your life. So that's all we do with our lives is that.
Well, it's almost like a full-time job then. It's not really like other parts of the industry. It's where you're like hopping around.
Yeah, it's like one of those like leaving the donut shop and working at the bus station. One of those. Yeah, it's like that.
I don't know when JD sees his kids.
Yeah.
I was going to ask that. I was going to ask that later in the show.
Yeah.
But like you guys go on the road for this show. What is that like for your families? I know you write that in for one of the characters that he's got a family that kind of follows him.
Yeah, those are my kids.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Oh.
Yeah. No, I the way that I wrote the show was so that I could bring my kids as well. And so when we shot in Madison, Wisconsin, that was really important to me. So it was actually a blessing. I grew up in Madison, so to be able to move my entire family for 3 months, and we bought we didn't buy a house. We rented a house. We bought a house and a stadium. We rented a house, and they went to school there, and we lived as normal lives as you can while also shooting a TV show.
And probably working 12 to 18 hours a day.
Yeah, but it sounded like it was going to be a mistake of like, oh, you'll never see him. But man, to have that structure when you get back home of like, hey, here we're having dinner, we're putting the kids to sleep.
Yeah.
It was really, it was so important that we're making it, a necessity in the second season.
Are your parents from Wisconsin? Are they still there?
No, my mom has moved to San Diego, but
Okay.
yeah, it was just my mom and I in Madison.
Oh, okay. So it's not like you had this did you have like the secondary family there?
Yeah, I mean, I knew a lot of people from improv there, and then also I had people I went to high school with. So the show itself is littered with people that I either went to high school with or people who I named characters. Like if you were a mean person to me in high school, you are a mean character in the show.
The first interview we ever had for How We Make Movies, one of the writers talked about how he named a character after this girl he went to high school with and had a crush on, and she ended up becoming one of the integral members of We Make Movies in the very beginning. So it's very funny how that sometimes comes around. So that brings us back to high school then. Tell us, you're from Madison. Where are you from, Elizabeth?
I'm from Kentucky, Owensboro, Kentucky.
Where is that? I'm from Cincinnati. I'm like right on the border.
It's on the other side of Kentucky.
Okay, the other side?
We're western Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
Just on the Ohio River, like
Out
Indiana's
in the mountains, or?
No.
Is it a city, or is it just like a collection of shacks? Like, do they have like a government? Is there a government, or is it just like tribal?
It's really funny. I've never heard this bit before.
It sounds like something from a Dolly Parton song. That's why I'm asking.
Winter's Bone!
No, it is a very lovely little town right on the Ohio River. And there were, towns and counties much smaller than us that we could then look down on.
Oh, that's good. You gotta have your competition.
Civic Darwinism.
So were you into acting when you were in high school? Is that how you got your start?
Yeah, the funny thing is I was actually born in California and then lived in California till I was 6. And while I lived in California, I wanted to be a farmer. And then my family moved to Kentucky, where my dad is from, to open up a business. And it was once we got to Kentucky that I decided I did not want to be a farmer. I wanted to be an actress. So yeah,
to
so
get
I
back
just
to
did,
your roots.
Yeah, community theater and stuff all through, even before high school. Just like since I was 7, I was just doing community theater.
I wanted to be a lawyer in high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I wanted to be a corporate lawyer for Citicorp. I have no idea why, but that was specifically.
You wanted to make money.
Yeah.
That's why.
No. I figured it out later. Like, that's what I wanted to do. And then it dawned on me one day, like, I don't want to be a lawyer. I want to play a lawyer. I don't want to study and like look up, drafts and be like, oh, I think, Plessy versus Ferguson. No, I wanted to be like, isn't it true? That's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to do that. And so then I realized, like, no, you want to play a lawyer. There's a shortcut to just doing the closing argument.
I think I had the same realization, but with a doctor.
Yeah. I concur.
I just want to play one on TV. I don't want to go to med school. So you were also, I'm sure, into theater in high school. Mm-hmm. And that's how I love that you guys got your start as performers.
Yep.
Because so many performers end up coming to LA, trying for a lot of years and then burning out. And you guys found a way to create your own work. And that's the ultimate win story, I think, in this town. So how did you guys meet?
Well, JD has been a working actor for a long time, and he owned a theater called Ultimate Improv in Westwood. And when I was in college, I would come see shows. I would come see JD do improv. I didn't know him, but I would come and I would watch him do improv, and I was impressed by it. And then my best friend and my now husband and boyfriend at the time, when we graduated and decided to move to Hollywood, because we had been in Pomona.
When you're watching American Idol and they're like, you're going to Hollywood, you always think like, it's kind of dirty. I always think like, you want to move to like Santa Monica, you're going to Santa Monica.
I always feel sorry for the people who are from LA.
Yeah.
And like don't get to fly on a plane.
You get to
like,
drive.
Just get in your car and just come over. But anyways, my best friend and my now husband wanted to audition for the theater that we had seen JD perform at his theater. And so I didn't even want to do it. I had no interest in improv. But I went along because I didn't want to be left out. And then it became such a huge part of my life. I met JD, and he was my teacher at first. I took classes there, and he taught me how to improvise, and he'd really fostered a community in that theater. We were all very, very close. Like, everyone became very good friends, too, and I'm still friends. Like, all my best friends are from in 2004 when I went and I auditioned at this theater and met JD and met all these people. And from there we just started, we built, he was kind of a mentor and then became a friend. Yeah,
I feel like it's a lot like your guys' group, the We Make Movies, that you were talking about these hypothetical people who come to LA all the time and try to make it and then leave. Right. A lot of it is community based. Like they just come and they're just all by themselves. And they can't get a foothold and they don't know anybody and stuff like that. And if you can build a community or be a part of a community like Ultimate Improv or your guys' group, I just think it's a lot easier because you can find people to create with, and there's a support group, and you feel like, if you're dead in your apartment for 3 days, somebody will notice. And
somebody might call.
Yeah, and so that was crucial, I think, and also just the idea of getting up and performing every week was, I think,
that's
also
another thing too. Just again, you guys have done this with the show, but like constantly creating your own work.
Yes, I think that for me, improv is a double-edged sword in that I think for half of it, it's really great in building that community and being able to perform. I do also think that it satiates a need for us to create. So I think that there can be a downside to improv or performing like that every week.
And what is that?
And the reason why is because you are then you no longer require yourself to go out and create something else, because every Friday night, without any effort, you are given adulation by 30 or 40 people.
You have a routine.
Yeah, or you just get that feedback that you crave because your dad's an alcoholic in my case, or whatever. So whatever caused that is satiated. So then you end up not creating. So this city to me is littered with a lot of people who are crazy talented, who just never get it going, never start working, and I can't help but feel like part of it is they have this thing that makes them feel like, hey, I'm doing something.
Do you feel that that's also a good thing in a way because it gives you a chance to hone your craft?
Yeah, like I said, it's both
it's
ways. For a period of time, I think it's great. And if you can still be creating, great. I just feel like a lot of people rely a little too much on it, and then they don't create. I mean, when I talk to people at your group, I hear a lot of like, we're producing this, we're going to do this festival, and we're going to, and I just wish there was a little bit more aspect of that. I have found in my life that the most creative and the most talented, God's hilarious joke on them has not given them the same drive and determination because they just show up and are beloved.
Yes.
And so they end up not creating as much. And so that to me I think can be a negative aspect.
Or they are so hung up on their father being an alcoholic that they can never get over it.
Right. I've gotten over it.
Good. So, what was the shift for you that caused you to kind of want to get on the other side of the camera?
I know specifically, which was about 4 years ago. I auditioned for. I've been auditioning since, I don't know, 96. And, I'd made a living as being that guy from that thing that you can't remember. And
I know so many guys like that.
Yeah,
and
I'm
I
that
love
guy.
them all.
Yeah. And so, and was making a good living out of it. But I had a series of auditions. I auditioned for Recount, 500 Days of Summer, and a pilot. And it was... one was with a friend of mine, Mark Webb, who directed 500 Days of Summer. Another one was with Danny Strong, who I used to audition with, who had written Recount. And then a third one was with Jason Weiner, who I had done improv with, who's one of the executive producers of Modern Family. And I realized that at some point, instead of holding on to this dream of acting, which is, you kind of have this feeling of like you need to win in acting, like you have this feeling like it's a radio contest, like Hands on a Hard Body, and you're just going to hold on to the car longer than anybody.
When you get your Oscar, that's when you
Yeah. It's because I've been here, because I peed my pants waiting for the other contestants to drop.
Yes.
And then at some point it becomes very clear that like maybe you've gone on too long and you could have created in other ways and created your own projects.
Yeah.
And I found with these three people that they had done that. They had moved on and started.
They had been performers first, and so they were an inspiration.
Yeah. I mean, especially Jason and Danny, absolutely. And it dawned on me like, hey, I think I need to start thinking about being on the other side of this table.
Did you feel that at your age, that like you because you hadn't had that experience yet, that jumping to the other side, you'd be like, oh, I'm a newbie. I might as well be 18 and starting from scratch.
Yeah, a little bit of that. So at my theater, we started doing video contests. We'd take a theme and we'd have a week to make it. Like a documentary for a week, or a science fiction, whatever it is, and you'd make a little 3 or 4 minute movie. I have to give credit to Channel 101 and Dan Harmon for building that model of like, hey, just creating and producing stuff like that. Yeah, he's the best. So that gave me a little bit more confidence to start getting into writing and creating and stuff like that. And then I worked at the same time. I also worked on the 2004 Kerry campaign. So I had.
Are you a libertarian?
No. No. John Kerry is a Democrat.
Oh, I thought
I'm pretty sure.
I thought you meant Drew Carey.
Yeah, on the Drew Carey campaign when he ran for funniest guy. No. When Drew Carey invaded Poland, that campaign. No.
I was like, I missed that. Did he run in Cleveland?
That'd be hilarious. No. I really enjoyed the experience of working on a campaign, and I kind of experienced what it was like to be on the road. And so, but what was interesting is at the end of the process, the guy who kind of took me under his wing while I was working on the campaign I went back home to my family and to my normal life, and he went on up to Michigan to do something called voter suppression. And I was so fascinated.
That sounds really
I know, doesn't it? Yes, it's Orwellian. And so I felt like it was kind of interesting that he spends his life just moving from campaign to campaign. And I wanted to know what that was like. Mm-hmm. How do you build families and communities, which is what you and I were just talking about. And that's where the genesis of the idea came from.
Excellent. I was really surprised by it too, with you guys both coming from a comedy background, that you would choose to go into a dramedy. And I watched the show, and there are, humorous moments that come from those human life, little idiosyncrasies, but most of it's actually very heavy. I think. I think part of it also is just the fear of the idea of like, hey, I'm going to write a comedy where there's going to be 2 jokes a page, and I just never wanted to give myself that pressure. Mm-hmm. So instead, I just write what I think is interesting and what I find fascinating about this world. Right. And I want the people to be aware of when they're being funny with each other. That's how they talk to each other, just like how we talk to each other in improv groups. Absolutely. I wanted to have that vibe. Do you use a lot of improv in the show?
Yeah.
It seems very off the cuff.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to build. I worked 2 days on Bad Boys 2 and got to be screamed at by Michael Bay, which I know I'm in good company. And I felt like I was ruining his movie at all times, the small part, because him and Will Smith and Martin Lawrence had already, I came in late in the production, so they had already built this relationship on marshland of not fighting with each other, and so they weren't allowed to yell at each other, so I was the only person who could be yelled at. So he kind of zeroed in on me like a Goldfinger laser. So I wanted to make sure that I never let actors feel that way of like that they're ruining the production. So I really am okay with that feeling of, hey, just make it your own, and if you want to change the words, that's fine. And then we also at the end of every take or every scene do an unusable take, where they're allowed to do anything that they want. They can go out of their minds, whatever it is that they want to do, and I think that just frees them to know like, hey, it's really not important this specific moment. You can the more relaxed you are as a performer, the better your performance is going to be.
So you would definitely consider yourself, then I'm sure, the actor's director.
I'm trying. I don't know.
I think that's great.
Yeah. He absolutely is. One of the things that JD used to have hanging in his theater at Ultimate Improv was a little plaque that says, "What would you do if you knew you could not fail?" And I feel like JD lives his life by that. You asked him if it was difficult to move from being an actor into being a producer and a director and a writer, and
I'm sure that'd be so intimidating.
I feel like he's with such grace. Like I feel like he just was like, I'm just gonna do this. Like it's what it looks like to me. Like I know that there were probably steps, but it was like, and as an actor in the show, and just since I also play a small part, and I think I can speak on behalf of the other actors in Battleground.
If it's positive, yeah.
JD Walsh can suck a big one.
That is so true. Right. That's what I'm going for. I can suck a big one.
Do you put that on your resume? Under your special skills?
No, that's my name.
Oh.
No, but he creates an environment that is incredibly comfortable, and he writes a script that is great, and it's words that the actors want to say, but then there also is this feeling of like, I don't have to nail it. I don't have to get it perfect. Yeah. The only thing that's going to make JD mad is if I stop and apologize. Oh. Like, just don't stop. Just keep going with it and just be a real person. Because real people sometimes stutter and real people sometimes can't think of a word, and it happens, and just to go with it. Because you'll sometimes find the best moments right after when you do like what you think is a huge mistake. And in those moments, like so many of those moments are in our show. I
mean, we're all looking for that Mark Ruffalo grabbing the fly moment in You Can't Take It With You. Is that right? Is that the name of the movie?
You Can Count on Me.
You Can Count on Me, where he that is somebody who is, hey, I'm just here right now, just talking. Yeah. And if you can build that world, if you can build a feeling that, whether it be on stage or whether it be in front of the camera, of I'm really okay with this being just fine, and not feeling like. One of the things about improv and acting is you can't try harder. you can only be. You can prepare more.
Huge, yeah.
You can. I'm all about preparation. But you know what they didn't know when I would go in for those auditions is that my effortlessness with the lines was 10 hours of preparation. So that moment I walked through the door, I just seemed like, oh, I just kind of had these lines, and you know what I'm saying? Like,
where did you train originally?
I went to UCLA for theater, and then from there moved on to improv theaters. I kind of hit every improv theater here.
I felt from my training that I started with Meisner,
Yeah.
and then I did Adler and a bunch of other techniques, and then have kind of moved into improv. I feel like it's all the same thing, just different wording in a way. It's just like living in the moment and like creating this reality and letting this be what it is.
I think that our experience from casting. I mean, it is, you hear it a lot when people say like, hey, just go through casting one time and you learn so much. I think the thing that we learned the most is we would have these people come in with huge resumes and just like the best schools in the country, and amazing training. But what that was built on was nerves. And so they would come in, and no matter what their training was, it was all about they were so nervous. And this was at the time we were a web series that nobody had ever heard of, and it was for very little money. So it's about as low stakes as you can get when it comes to theatrical auditions.
Right.
I mean, we weren't auditioning in the Valley, which was always a red flag for me. But
Will you take your shirt off?
Yeah. I didn't have those, but I guess we lived two different paths. Mine was always, could you put your shirt back on? No, it's my process. So they would come in and they would be so nervous, and if I was going to teach acting again, if I was going to really build a theater, I wouldn't work on technique at all. I would just work on nerves.
Yeah.
I would just create an environment where people come in and feel nervous going in, so that like when I would go for a network test, I would get 5 or 6 of my friends who I admired, who were the funniest people I knew, and said, hey, could you come to my house? Or I would go to their house, and I just want to do the lines for you, because I'd be so nervous in front of them of like, hey, this guy's really funny, and get the shaky hand going.
Yeah.
And I knew that if I could do the lines there, and if I could deliver there, that when I walked in front of Les Moonves, I would be able to deliver that performance.
From your own experiences as actors, have you come up with any tricks?
Tricks
Tricks or techniques for easing your own nerves?
Yes. What are you going?
What do you have?
At this point, I try to talk to the other actors in the room beforehand. That helps me. Sometimes I walk into a room and I feel like I haven't spoken to another human being in like hours. Like I feel like I've only just been saying the lines to myself in my head over and over again.
Especially if it's the first audition of the day. Maybe you haven't even spoken out loud yet.
Yeah. I mean, that happens all the time. You wake up and your husband or your wife has gone to work or whatever, and like you haven't spoken to a soul. And so I found that like that is helpful for me, just like to show up and be like, even if I don't know somebody, just try to talk to somebody. just a little chit chat, so that when you go into the room, the person who is auditioning you is not the first person you've spoken to that day.
What's the worst audition you ever had, Elizabeth?
Well, I once was called in, it was a commercial audition, and they had told me that they had ahead of time, make sure you show up at the time that you were called, because they had prepared the people who were auditioning together. And so I show up to the place, and I'm like, oh, I wonder who they prepared me with. Like, that'll be really interesting to know who they think I look like I should be with. And JD shows up.
And that was your worst audition ever?
And we know each other. We are friends. We have done improv together for years. And it's just it's a commercial audition. Like it's
Don't go in with your friends.
Really?
Because you're super hyper aware of like one not wanting to sell out and one wanting to be good, and you're totally not connecting with the other person. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you definitely are in different worlds.
Wow.
It was another audition I had that was just fine, but was such a clear example of Hollywood for me. As I tested for a show called Fighting Fitzgeralds, and to be Brian Dennehy's son. And at the end of the audition, there's studio and there's network. So if you do well at studio, then you get to go to network, which is the World Series. And
you won.
Yeah, exactly. So the goal of all us actors is to make it to network.
Right.
That's the big deal. And so I was at studio, and I felt so good about the audition that I almost high-fived all the assistants as I walked down the hallway. Like, I almost went, boom, 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 boom. That's how good I felt about it. And then I had a commercial audition, oddly in the Valley, foreshadowing, where I went to the audition, and as I was walking into the audition, my manager called, and he said, we didn't get it. You're not moving forward. Oh. And I was like, he says we didn't get it, because it makes it feel like the royal we, but I didn't get it. Yeah. So then I didn't get to go to network that afternoon, and I walked into the audition, and it was a Pepsi audition where you had to take your shirt off and dance. And
so
never have
you went to the Valley and you had to take
I know,
your
it's
shirt
crazy,
off.
isn't it? That I was able to see all of Hollywood in 2 hours. You know what I'm saying? I'm at the top of the moon! But you were talking about auditioning tricks. I think the biggest thing. Yes, Annie, what she was saying is the idea of saying the lines with somebody. Man, my wife, you get people when they win Emmys and they're like, gotta thank my wife, and you're like, oh.
And then there's the people that forget to thank their wife.
Yeah, exactly. That you kind of feel like, oh, they're just doing that so that the person's not mad at them at home.
Yeah.
No, my wife, for the last 12 years, has been there every theatrical audition, running those lines, not complaining. I know it's not fun. I know it's not easy dealing with my anger when I'm, for some reason, when I'm running lines, I get super anxious and angry, and dealing with all of that. And so when I walk into an audition, I've already done the lines 100 times, and we used to do things. We used to have my wife mess with me because casting directors always do weird shit when you're in auditions, like they're eating Chinese food, or they're playing darts while you're auditioning, and so I would come into the room, we'd pretend that I was walking into the room, and my wife would not have a chair for me to sit in, or would stand up right next to me and do the lines, and just so that no matter what happened in that audition, I would get used to auditioning and feeling nervous. But I think the best trick that I learned was a idea that Jason Weiner and I both came up with. His was organic, which was he was auditioning with Anna Faris for a talking dog show. No joke, just again a coincidence. And he was walking into the room, and they were laughing as they were going down the hallway. And so then when he walked into the audition room, it was perfect. Like they were, he was kind of happy when he walked into the room. And so I took that very awesome, real moment and created a very false narrative for whenever I walk into auditions, and I'd like to show it to you.
Yes, please. Let me get a performance.
Oh, hey guys. I'm laughing at nothing. I'm laughing at a filing cabinet.
But immediately they want to know what it is you're laughing at. That's that air of mystery.
The idea is hey, my life's a party. I'm just having fun. I'm gonna stroll in, do this thing, go back to my world.
There's that bit of they want to know. I had an acting teacher once tell me, every audition you go to, always have a secret. And it doesn't matter what it is, it just gives you that air of mystery, and they just want to lean in a little bit. He's like, mine is, I always fart right before I go in the room. I smell it, and I'm like, I know it's me.
That's
and
crazy.
He'll have this little smile on his face when he's ready to audition.
He just comes in going like this, hey guys, what's going on?
That's his secret. That's his secret.
What if it follows him into the room?
And he just does the door thing for a few days.
It would definitely make him feel, seem eccentric. So
yes.
We did, covered the acting thing.
Yep.
We talked about what made you want to shift into being on the other side of the camera. She talked about how you seem to have this unwavering confidence. How did all this actually happen? I mean, this is your first thing that you really wrote, and I saw on your IMDb you have no other writing credits, no other directing credits, no other executive producing credits, and then bam.
Yeah, so I started writing it,
Yeah.
and my friend Mark, who I went to school with in elementary school, he was very supportive of it, and I told him the concept, and he was like, "Hey, after 500 Days of Summer, I'm getting some meetings, so you should finish that." And I was like, if not that, if that can't make me finish a project, then what will? So that made me finish the script. And what happened is that I had a couple friends who had agents, and I think my take is you get one shot with your friends who have agents.
Right.
So make sure it's a good shot. Make sure it is like, hey, I know this is awkward, but I'd love for you to read this script. You know what I'm saying? Because they're not going to read a second script, especially if the first one's not good.
Yeah.
So I had them read it, and a guy really liked it, and he said, "Hey, can I show this to my agent at CAA?" And I said, "No."
He asked you?
No, of course I said yeah. And it went to CAA. They really liked it. They went to production houses with it, and I was like, "This is the rocket ship! Goodbye, commercial acting!" Then none of the production houses liked it. None of the producers liked it, it's this politics, that kind of red badge that is on politics, or it's essentially like, oh, it's a leukemia comedy. It's got that kind of vibe to it. So then we went to. So then it was dead. It was dead, I was like, oh, okay. And I started thinking to myself, like, I had made some money in commercials, so I thought, all right, well, this script is not the greatest script, but it's not a terrible script. So let's say that it is equal to a average show on television. Something, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so lots
of shows I don't watch.
Yeah, exactly. All those posters for USA Network shows with one-word names like that. Yeah. That I don't know what that is. I don't know what Suits is about, but you know what I'm saying? So besides the obvious.
Right.
So I was like, all right, let's go and direct this. So I put together $20,000. I called my mom and my uncle. Again, you get one shot with them to say, like, hey, could you give me some money? And they gave me $20,000, and we went to Madison and we filmed it. We filmed it in 4 days. And that was, I think, the real moment. That was the moment where now I had something tangible. I had some. This is what we spent our money on. We spent our money on a good editor. Yes. Great sound, and a DP. Those were the most important things. Everything else, the actors worked for free. We put them up in apartments with friends. I mean, everything else was as cheap as you could be, but an editor, a DP, and sound. Those were the most important.
Yeah. I think so many people underestimate how important sound is.
Yeah. No, that needs to be said again. Yeah. People underestimate how important sound is. It is crucial to your movie. It immediately, without the audience really sometimes getting it, marginalizes your show.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you hear that kind of echoey thing. So I was like, all right, so we made it. I showed it to my managers. They dug it. Showed it to Mark, who had liked the script, but was like, I don't know what to do with this, but it's a nice script. Right. And all of a sudden he was like, hey, let me take this to my agents. And that's when it changed. Now, what I feel bad about in this story, because I know what it's like to be like, hey, what's the path? And I understand that this path has a giant golden bridge over it, which is, I was friends with Mark Webb, who directed Spider-Man. I get that.
But that also comes with, you worked for how many years as an actor and built those contacts, working your ass off in Hollywood.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it definitely helped, but there was also something tangible to give him in that moment where he was able to move it on. So because of Spider-Man, we were able to bring it into Fox. Right. And Fox, I think, really just wanted to be in the business with Mark Webb. I think the idea was okay, and it was a really good experience with Fox. I grew up on the Larry Sanders Show, so I thought it was going to be network notes that were nightmares, and it was actually a very wonderful experience.
Positive.
All the way to where they didn't make it. But they were so nice about it. They were super nice about it, and I thought that it was going to be dead. But here's, I think, an important piece of the story is that Mark's friend, a guy who had been part of the show before we had gone to Fox, we were taking it around to different production companies and stuff like that, had been a part of the team behind it, and Fox had pushed him out. You know, they said, oh, we don't know who this guy is, and it's just you and Mark and stuff like that. They just didn't want to pay him.
Right.
And that was an uncomfortable phone call. But after it had died at Fox, a guy called, and I don't think I would have ever done this. I don't think I ever would have had the balls to call up and say, like, hey, I really believe in this project. I'd like to come back on board. I have this friend at Hulu who's looking for original programming. Can we do it? And because he did that, that's what got us to Hulu, and that's what got it, you know, going from there. And I think that
So it was that friend that had been slighted, but still loved
and I
you
think
and
that
loved
you
the
need to
project.
do that in the city.
Yeah.
I think that there has to be some sort of like swallowing the pride and just being like, I'm just going to get back up again.
Yeah.
I really do. Like, the city will
Knocking
give
down
you
your ego.
every reason to hate it. And the only way that I am able to deal with it in this city is I just see it as a giant practical joke by Hollywood. So that I'm constantly like, that's a good one. That's a good one, Hollywood. You really made me cry there. I'm full of self-loathing and doubt. Thank you, Hollywood. I'm actually pointing at the Hollywood sign, literally and figuratively right now. But he, you know, he was able to do it, and that's what got us to Hulu. But I think what helped at Hulu, and I think that this is crucial, is we had a lot of things going for ourselves. One, we had a pilot, and they were able to see it. So it wasn't just a concept. It was like, this is what it's going to look like.
You believed in yourself enough to invest in the project.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But also they were able to not just, I didn't have to explain, like, you know, it's kind of like The Office, but it's also The West Wing. They were able to see the tone of the show. And I think that that's what was important to them. 2, we had a pilot script already written. 3, Guy, the producer, this is important, is to make sure you get a guy who's on your team who's good at production and is good at money and just gets the whole world and is able to, what they were able to see in our team was the idea of this dude's gonna write it and this dude's gonna produce it, and if we give him X amount of dollars, we're going to get this. And that was crucial. I think also it helped that Mark Webb's name was attached to it so that there was some sort of like press release of it. I think that helped, and then in the end I think they also liked it. But those other aspects, especially the producer
I love that
part,
you put that at the very, very, very end.
Yeah.
And they might have liked it.
Yeah.
All these other things lined up, and they probably
Yeah, but
liked
don't we
it.
kind of go through life like that, just feeling like people just are like okay with what you did? I mean, we rarely are just like, man, we're awesome. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't want to be those crazy people who think they're awesome that are talentless. You know how the city is just kind of full of like
those.
people who just have websites and flyers, and I got this show, and you just know it's just surrounding a piece of poop. Yeah. And I just never wanted to be that guy.
I'm always a little jealous of those people, though.
Yes.
I'm like, why? If I only had
No, that's a
ounce
good
of
sign.
confidence.
That's a good sign. That means you're talented.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
No, at what point, Elizabeth, did you get into the show? Or were you brought on board?
Well, I actually, when JD had called his mom and his uncle and got that $20,000 to shoot that pilot, I actually auditioned to be the unpaid actor shooting his pilot in Madison, and I did not get the part.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah. Just as a vendetta. She was good enough. I just was being mean.
So that was actually that was when I first came in contact with it, and I read the script and I thought his pilot that he wrote was amazing, and then, you know, for a while, nothing, from my perception, nothing was really happening with it. And
you were doing tons of commercial auditions and TV auditions in the meantime?
I was just trying to work as an actress, mostly in commercials. It's mostly the work that I've done, and just trying to live my life as an actress in the city, which is tough. And doing improv and you know, at the theater. And I am a part of an all-female improv group called Token Boy.
Plug it. What's the website?
Just go to Facebook and look at Token Boy. We haven't updated our website in a long time because we're not.
Means they're talented.
I think you're on to something.
I know I'm on to something.
But you know, all of the girls in Token Boy were all a part of JD's theater too. So JD knew us, and we were close with him. And he actually approached us about writing something different together, like a completely different show, which we did. And I had never really just thought that I wanted to write or anything. I remember at the meetings kind of being like, all right, like, I'll do this because I want to be an actor in it, but like, I don't really want to write. And then I ended up writing a lot. Like, I felt, and I enjoyed the process and learned a lot from JD from writing with him for that pilot. And that didn't end up going anywhere. We filmed it, and it didn't. Nothing really happened.
So you helped with his pilot?
We did, in the interim of while this was going through Fox and all that kind of stuff, I was like, well, you know, it sounds good on paper, like, oh, it's a 3-year travel up to the top of the mountain, but it's actually, you have a lot of free time in that time while you're waiting. And so I started doing, you know, like every 6 months, like a different pilot, where we'd write the pilot and then we'd spend a weekend, we'd get a good DP and a good sound guy and a good editor.
That's great.
And shoot it. And so one of those shows that we made was called the Nanny Club, and she helped me write it. And it worked so well, her and I working together, that I was like, when Battleground turned into something, I was like, hey, would you like to come on as one of the writers?
That's how it happened.
Yeah.
That's how it happened. So since then, I saw on the IMDb that you helped with 2 episodes, but are you doing more than that now?
I have a co-writing credit on 3 of the episodes from the first season. And you know, I worked as a co-producer, so I was there during all the production, and it's actually probably one of my favorite parts of it, was getting to sit next to JD at the monitors and get to see him direct the actors and put in my 2 cents whenever you know, I wanted to.
It's really important to have somebody that you can talk to about, like, hey, I'm thinking this, and you know, I do have a lot of confidence in me being able to see things and performances and stuff like that, but I don't see it all.
Right.
And she catches those things, and also occasionally I'm wrong, and so she can catch those things as well. So
you were with him behind the monitor the entire first season.
Yeah.
And except for the few moments where I was in front of the cameras, because I did play a small part. He finally cast me.
It's about time.
Yeah.
So that was mainly what I did, and then you know, I stuck around and helped with, you know, I was in the edit room too. I got to watch all the footage, and JD of course does all the notes and does the really hands-on stuff. But I also got to play a part. I got to give him my opinion.
Yeah.
And so it was really fun being a part of it.
I think a big piece of it, to just kind of broaden out, is to build an excellent team around you. Like, I'm betting on Elizabeth. I'm betting on Elizabeth as a talent and as a creator and somebody who I can bounce ideas off of. I'm betting on Jared and Guy as those people as well, but also from a production standpoint. And if you can build that team, you got to hold them tight and be like, hey, let's just keep working, because this is working. This system is working, and that's lightning in a bottle.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? There's times where I'm sure we're going to get on each other's nerves, but in comparison to, you know, you're trying to do a shoot this weekend, and the people that you decided to do it with are like, no, we're going to Coachella this weekend. Like that is a very common thing in the city, and if you can get people that you believe in who are
dedicated,
it's rare, so rare in the city.
Now, you've kind of made the switch from acting to producing and writing. Do you see yourself going further with producing and writing? Or are you still like, oh, I really have this other dream?
I still want to be an actor, and I don't feel like in this day and age you have to pick one. I think you can do them all. Like, I want to work on Battleground for as long as I can, because I believe in the project, and I like working with JD and Hagai and Jared, and so I want to do all 3 of those. I want to be an actor, writer, producer for as long as I can on this show, and then eventually, like, I'd like to, you know, I have my own ideas for things that I'd like to write, and kind of step into more of a JD role, like what JD, this is his baby, and someday I want to have my baby, you know, that feels like mine. But no, my desire to be an actress has not gone away, and I don't feel like it's something that I have to choose between. Like, I feel like I've had to put acting a little on the back burner when I'm busy, when I'm writing, and you know, there's been auditions that I can't make it to because we're just doing other things. But it's not something that's gone out of my life completely, and I don't think it has to. Yeah,
I don't have to act ever again.
Really?
I really don't.
You're satisfied with your
I
journey?
enjoyed doing 2.5 Men and being in front of a live audience and doing it then, and the excitement of that.
Yeah.
But doing a 1-hour drama where you're shooting one scene for 12 hours and you're just kind of standing there just watching the lead talk for 12 hours. I don't really need. It's nice when people come up to you and say like, hey, I saw your thing. That is nice.
Yeah.
But I don't need it. I don't need it anymore. But that's just my personal journey.
As writers, you were just talking about eventually one day having your baby and you know, doing the Hulu thing. How important is it for you to maintain the rights of your own work? And I think that's really what kind of defines the independent spirit. Is like, have this idea, I have this thing that I have to make, and I want to make it and see it all the way through. Would you like write something just to sell it and give it to someone else, or do you really like?
Oh yeah, I mean, it depends on the money. Yeah, I mean, yeah, if they wanted to pay me to do some sort of like studio blockbuster about how the trees are attacking us and pay me $1 million, yeah, I'd be into it. But that's not, but I was also able to hold up a can of Pepsi for years and just be like, delicious, and get paid. So I sold out in '96. So I just have been able to compartmentalize that in my mind, that's not my life. That's not who I am. Being either a commercial actor or a writer for hire is not who I am. My life is what I create, and my family and my friends. So it's I never connect the two. With that said, I wish that I was somebody with, let's say, Battleground, that I was able to just be like, oh yeah, let's make that cut, or let's cast this person, because it would make it smoother process for everybody involved. But I'm unable to do that. I feel so strongly about my point of view that I'm unable. I'm definitely able to compromise when it comes to process of like, hey, you want to have meetings and we do this, and like, hey, is it okay if we do another round of notes? I'm all for that. Right. But if it's something that I believe in a specific moment, I'm not able to just say like, yeah, sure, it's good, because I know I will regret it the rest of my life.
We have some questions from the audience.
Great.
The first one is from a Twitter follower at @ckukihiko. What do you think web versus TV programming will look like in 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I think that there's been a big shift in the last year. I think now, and I think you're going to see it even more next year with, more shows coming out that are specifically made for the web. For me,
Arrested Development.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And I think the big moment for me was the moment where my wife was able to sit on a couch with me and watch our TV that was hooked up to the internet and watch her shows. You know, as long as she can watch Army Wives sitting on the couch on the TV, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As opposed to what was happening 2 years ago,
right.
3 years ago, where you would sit at a kitchen table with your laptop kind of watching your show. I think that you're going to see more people making shows for it, because it's going to be the exact same as whether you're making a show for, let's say, the Sundance Channel. I think that you're going to start seeing people change from this dynamic, and I don't know why it's still going on, where web series need to be 5 minutes, 7 minutes long. Like, I keep hearing about this new internet boom of television, but when you go into what the programming is, often it's 5 minute, 7 minute shows, and I don't think that that's the route. I think that we've proven that you are able to make a 22-minute show, possibly even a 44-minute show. My mom doesn't know what network Friday Night Lights was on, but she knows that it's on Hulu, so she watches it, and she just watches it straight through. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that is a monumental shift in television. So I think that that's what you're going to see more and more.
This one's also for JD from Tim McCook. He said, as a UW-Madison alumni, I'm curious about how your Wisconsin roots informed your voice, and also how the UW Alumni Support Network is in LA.
Great. I didn't go to Wisconsin because my mom was a professor at Wisconsin, and I was worried that she was going to knock on my dorm door at any moment in my life, so I left. No, I have very fond memories of Madison. I grew up there. I do think that there's a great comedy environment there. That's where The Onion started. There's a lot of improv there. And I set the show there, and mainly why I set the show there was so that I could, when I was writing, it was just a lot easier to just come up with the name of a park that I had gone to school with, that I had done when I was in elementary school, than to actually do research. So, so that was a lot easier. It was then very weird to 2 months later bring an entire crew to the park that I had grown up at to shoot a scene. Was a very weird.
Did you cast and crew everyone out of LA and then bring them?
We found a lot of people that we'll get into the depths of production. We cast people in LA, Milwaukee, Madison, and Chicago, and I would say that if you were going to do this, if we were going to do it again, for parts where you have to be funny and you have some real lines, you want to go to either Chicago, LA, or New York. You can find people in the city that you're going to film that will be fine, but you have to look at 100 of them to find 2 or 3 of them. We found some great.
They just don't have the experience.
Yeah, and also they would show up on set and think that we were shooting Lord of the Rings. You know what I'm saying? Like they were just like, "Oh my God, this is the biggest thing I've ever done in my life." Yeah. And I was like, "It's right now it's a web series, so let's calm it down." So yeah, so there definitely was. There's definitely that hump that we had to overcome of people being like, "Ah."
Yeah. This one's from Robert Bang. He said, "What is your average budget for a typical webisode of Battleground?"
Well, I would say, they'll kill me if I say the actual name, so I'll be happy to tell him after this.
Okay. That was Robert Bang.
Yeah. I'll be happy to tell him. I would say it's the same as a independent movie that would be excited to get into Sundance.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, we got into Sundance, but we were. I mean, everybody got paid.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, hey, quit your day job. It was get done with filming, go back to your day job.
Right. Because it's one of those things. It's still for web and not for network. So even with the sponsorships, it's not going to be as.
Yeah, right now, but
right.
I mean, there's more money going into these shows.
Yeah.
And I think we were one of the first shows that had a legitimate budget.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But we still had to film 13 episodes in 7 or 8 weeks.
Uh-huh.
And that's not easy. So we filmed it like it was a movie. We filmed 375 pages where we just, where we would shoot out of order and all that kind of stuff because that's where we had to save money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one's from @Eric D. Altman. He says, "Do you find that being a hyphenate, writer, producer, director, has helped propel you forward along your career paths?"
Yeah, I know after Battleground for me, I was able to actually get meetings with people, who wanted to meet with me. As an actor, you struggle for a long time just to get into a room, and oftentimes when you get in the room to meet an agent or a manager, they're not even that nice to you.
Yeah.
And so that was nice having someone call me out of the blue and be like, "Hey, you wanna go get a drink?" And me being like, "All right," and then buying me a drink, and then being like, "I want to work with you." I mean, that was nice. It definitely changed that for me. It opened some doors.
Yeah.
I do think that because I feel like with improv I stayed at the party a little too long. I ran this improv theater for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I just kind of feel like if everything had gone really well with the improv theater, like we were just killing it, I'd probably make about $20,000 a year. So it was not a money making operation. And so I feel like I stayed a little too long at the party. With that said, I do know that I use the skills that I gained from teaching improv and talking about art and having a point of view of art, that I use those same skills when I'm meeting with people who are intimidating and scary. Whether it be network executives or people at CAA, I still have that same confidence. As long as we stay in my realm of being able to make it sound like I know what I'm talking about, when really I'm just talking about improv and changing the words.
And also, walking in the door laughing helps.
Yes, exactly. Depends what the filing cabinet says.
This one is also from @CKukahiko. He says, "How long and circuitous," you thought I wouldn't be able to pronounce it, was Hulu's greenlighting process?
It was a little hard because they had never really done this before, so we had to start from scratch of what the deal was going to be. But Mark Webb told me that when I was kind of calling him and saying like, "Oh, we're still waiting for the official green light."
Was it helpful to have him on your side?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, to talk about it. And he said that, and this was like a year ago, he said that he was still waiting for 500 Days of Summer to get greenlit. It's
such a good movie. That's so sad to think that they had to wait.
They had to wait, but that they never got the official word. It's kind of like walking into the ocean and then realize like, oh look, we're underwater now. That is a bit of the process. I joke with the Hulu people that I would like the moment where we just clink glasses and we're like, yay, we're all greenlit. But it's a very slow process, and you don't know when it's going to happen. And very tough.
From start to finish, from the point where you started writing it to the point where you started your first day of production.
We're starting writing the original pilot, like at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Because I would write at McDonald's because they have free soda and they have free Wi-Fi.
Yes.
So it's great. So if you could put some headphones in, yeah, it's really, really nice.
It's better than Starbucks.
Yeah. And there's not other writers there.
Right? Yeah. No one to compete with or look over your shoulder.
Yeah. It's like maybe some like intellectuals / homeless people. You're not really sure what's
you
going
and the
on.
homeless dude in the back.
Yeah. So that process was 2.5 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. But again, it sounds like every day I was doing it, but I wasn't. I was doing
So
other
lots
things.
of hurry up and wait.
Yeah, a lot of that.
This one's from Andy Gala. He said, what happened to the character Ali Candon on Battleground?
What happened to the character?
Yeah.
I think, are you asking like a story point of like where she goes from here?
Yeah, what happened? I never saw him on the episode.
Oh, Ali?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I auditioned for it.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's interesting. All right. All right, now I got it. So we wrote this part.
Okay.
And it was for a guy.
All right.
And a guy came in who was terrible. And it was that guy.
And then you were like, screw it.
No, true story. We were auditioning people, and a girl came in to audition for a different part, and she was really good but wrong for the part. And I said, like, hey, what if it was a kind of a tech guy? And I said, what if we looked at girls for this part? And this girl came back, and she wasn't right for it, but we opened it up for a day to have somebody come in, and a girl named Allie came in and knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
And so when she tested for it, she went up against 2 other guys, and she beat them all. And so that's what happened
So
with that
Ali
character.
became Ollie.
Yeah, exactly. I don't like changing my scripts at all, so it's very difficult to find an alley, but we did it.
That's about all the time we have for today. I want to ask one more question.
Yeah.
Just for people that are starting out in the industry, what are some of the traits that you think are most important if you're going to try to make it in this industry?
I guess this is cliche, but perseverance, and just surrounding yourself with people who help you do what you want to do.
I would say faux confidence. I would say I'm amazed at, what my wife used to watch America's Next Top Model, and there would be, they would have 20,000 people selected to go to the, would try to audition for it, and then they'd select 200, and then there only 20 would be selected from there. This is like a couple weeks of episodes, and then 20, and then those 20 people would be like, "Congratulations, you got it! Show up tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. in the lobby. You have to be there right at 8 a.m." And sure enough, the next morning, after all this process and the biggest thing in their lives, there'd be like 5 or 6 people at like 8:07, 8:10, some people still sleeping, rolling in. And my theory was that even if you said, hey, if you don't show up at 8 o'clock, we're going to shoot you dead in your bed, that there would still be some performers who would not show up on time.
Yep.
And so it is a rare thing. If you just show up and get your work done, and are pleasant, man, you'd be surprised how far that'll get you. You're also going to need some talent, but man, pleasantness and reliability, man, crucial.
Helps.
Yep.
It helps. Well, thank you so much for joining us, JD and Elizabeth. You can check out their show on Hulu for free. It's called Battleground, and the next series will be being filmed very soon, so be on the lookout for that as well. Thank you so much, guys.
And cut.